double wide, but that one hung in the air just a little too long. Look at this pileup that builds under the disc, but the defensive prowess of Antoine Davis is no match.
Eli Kearns rips one. Davis in pursuit. Antoine Davis could not make the play. Chase Cunningham right there defensively, and the pressure apparently did enough.
It's a nice put, and Antoine reads it well. But you're right, look at that pressure that makes him misread that disc. Saw him bend almost backwards to try and reach for it as he realized his execution error.
Unlike a year ago, Revolver turns it over in the first half in the final in 2017. They were perfect in intermission last year against Ironside. Jay Frood elevates, tips it, can't make the catch. So a second missed opportunity for Frood in the opening couple points.
Coach Darrow talked about how that was an important lesson he learned while playing Revolver in pool play, is that they do make mistakes. They do give you opportunities. Right now, Doublewide struggling to capitalize on those opportunities.
Byron Liu hauls in the hunt from Cassie Rasmussen, and a second break for San Francisco.
It really doesn't get much more beautiful than that. Here's the toss from Smith that you think Frood is coming down with, but just does not manage to get his fingertips around it. Rasmussen winds up and unleashes an absolute dime to the sprinting all alone Byron Liu.
Byron Liu now in his second year on the team. Part of the heartbreak from a season ago, and Cassidy Rasmussen has had a bunch of peaks and valleys of emotions with San Francisco Revolver, now in his 9th season. In his 8th final. Revolver perfect through pool play. That included a 15-10 win over Doublewide early Thursday morning, as a matter of fact. Tightest game against High Five, cruising past Pony in the quarters, and then Ring made Revolver sweat a little bit, but Revolver too strong in the second half. Put the game away. This really feels like a must score for Doublewide. We saw them come back against Truck Stop, but Revolver a different beast, especially defensively, and they come out with a junkie zone look here on the 3rd point of the game. Not exactly the same defense that Florida United ran against Doublewide, but certainly some similarities on this field in one of the most contentious games of the tournament on Friday afternoon. I guess that was Saturday. You lose track of all sense of time and space when you're at Nationals.
You know, it's also a little bit tricky because Nationals is the only tournament that starts
That was Friday. I was right.
You should never second guess yourself, Evan. That's the lesson learned.
Stephen Darrow said, I asked him about the Revolver game in pool play. He said, man, it doesn't feel like 72 hours ago. It feels like 3 weeks ago. I think Doublewide has evolved as a team since that first game. Cunningham is a standout at the University of Texas, where he was a rival of Dalton Smith, who played at Texas A&M. Bends that backhand around to Frood, who played at University of Missouri, still lives in Kansas City, and really committed to be a part of Doublewide this year after leading Kansas City Prairie Fire, along with Abe Coffin and Matt Jackson, who's now with Johnny Bravo. Kaplan Maurer, another Prairie Fire guy who joined Doublewide this year. We asked Doublewide, are you surprised you're here? What was the goal coming into the weekend? Said all along the goal has been to win a championship. So to answer the question, no, that they're not surprised. They have belief. In the words of their coach, belief can be contagious. So Nathan White's long arms and defense.
2 swats and a catch. Nathan White was committed to ensuring that remained Revolver.
Check out this handler defense from White. Not just once, but twice.
Just tips it and then follows to finish that D.
Quick timeout for Revolver. If you're wondering what the heck are these uniforms, you're not alone. That was my first thought on Thursday morning. Created by Simon Higgins and Nick Stewart. They were the only 2 members of the team that knew what the uniforms were going to look like, and they handed them out when they got to Florida. And typically, Revolver buys into what their teammates are doing, so they have bought in, despite perhaps their better fashion sense, but that's just one man's opinion.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think they are appropriate for all occasions. I'd wear mine all the time.
Revolver could have been a Triple Crown contender if they had taken care of business in the final in Blaine, Minnesota on August 6th against Seattle Sockeye. Revolver did get the win at the Pro Elite Challenge back in July, and then took down Machine to cap the Pro Championships at the end of the regular season in Seattle.
That Triple Crown really is a very tricky accomplishment for a team to finalize. Just keeping your team functioning at that level all season would be really tough.
Too far on the huck intended for Russell Wind. So Nick Stewart's overthrow gives the disc back to Doublewide. That's the second turn for Revolver. We still haven't seen a Revolver O-line. Dave Coffin, USA U23 experience, along with Dalton Smith, Jay Frood. They developed a bond in those USA U23 situations. And really the Prairie Fire decision to have a few guys join Doublewide this year, as this disc floats up, and Nathan White again. His reach creates another Revolver break. Just absurd length and athleticism from White. Quick dish to Kearns, 3-0 Revolver.
Nathan White stands at 6'5". I'm convinced that his wingspan is even longer. As a whole, that Revolver zone was really good at taking away options, but Nathan White proved to be the key pivotal part of that zone.
You're seeing demoralized body language right now from Doublewide. Not to pick on Frood too much, but he wasn't that eager to play defense after he got skied here. And Revolver quickly capitalizes. I was getting ready to talk about the fact that the internationals last year, Prairie Fire and HIP had basically a consolation game. And it was a competitive game, a friendly game, and it was during/after that game when Dalton Smith and Matt Bennett, some of the leaders at HIP, started to talk to Abe Coffin and Jay Frood and said, look, we've got the talent, we should put it together. They've played professionally together, and well, they're here in the finals, so they've done quite a bit right. But it has not gone well so far in this championship game. 2-1 in pool play, the lone loss to Revolver. The big one over High Five gave them the 2 spot in their pool, set them up for a tough quarter against Johnny Bravo, but they just played brilliantly and took down a team with so much talent like Jimmy Mickle and Ben Laurie and Mark Lloyd, Matt Jackson, a former Prairie Fire teammate of Coffin, Frood, and Mowers, and then the game against Florida United, a game that has generated a decent amount of conversation in the ultimate community. Competitive and fiery. win against Truck Stop yesterday at the adjacent field to this primary stadium pitch.
It's no question Doublewide has come to this tournament and accomplished some great things. But as I said earlier, they really feel like they shifted into that next gear just here at Nationals. So they're finding out everything that they can accomplish, but now they're up against some really intense pressure. So they're having to make adjustments on the fly against a team that really doesn't allow much margin, much room for error. So adjustments are going to have to be very quick and executed well for them to be able to hang in this game.
Doublewide needs something good to happen. Here's Matt Bennett. His throw is high, but thankfully Kai Marshall is tall. Malachek. This is Smith, harassed by Cox, who lays out for the bid on the point mark, but Smith broke him anyway. Lefties hit ahead, Jeff Loscorn.
Foul ball back in the sack.
1. Foul round 1.
On 40, Dengler, Overmeyer, and Lorela in charge of any disputes here in the final. Miscommunication yet again. Smith thought Cunningham was coming under. Christian Johnson gets the easy run through D. And Revolver looking for a 4th consecutive break. Friedman picks up. And gets very lucky. Russell Wynn keeps it alive. Wynn calls the foul on Loscorn. Loscorn in his 10th year on Doublewide is the longest current tenured member of the team. You'll see Smith expecting Cunningham to continue, and Johnson was there.
Yeah, Loscorn is one of the 4 remaining members who was on Doublewide back in 2012 when they beat Revolver.
Pick called, so Thompson returns the disc back to Canner.
Coming in on 2, Malachek on the mark.
Another pick downfield, not sure if it's involved in this particular reception. Stewart will keep the disc. Stewart, of course, played for Seattle Sockeye last year. Before that, played with Sub-Zero in the Twin Cities. Carlton product, was an assistant coach for Carlton. Their championship run in May. 4-0 Revolver. They're making it look easy.
Eli Friedman in the end zone for the Revolver score. That's San Francisco 4, Austin 0.
Sawyer Thompson looked down the field and immediately saw the possibility in Freeman. That's just a pretty shot. Starts off running even with the sideline. Excuse me, Sam Canner with that shot to Freeman. Starts off running even with the sideline, then starts to curve into the middle of the end zone. Right, Revolver definitely playing at a different level than Doublewide. Mike Payne told his team that they were not allowed to think about the 2012 game at all. Not think about it, not discuss it. He wanted them to step on the field today and play as though they were playing one another. He said, no one can give us a better game than ourselves, so we're pretending like our O-line is matching up against our D-line, and that's how we're approaching this game.
And he said, imagine like you're being covered by your favorite matchup in practice.
And I think energetically, that really is what it feels like. from the Revolver side, like a tough inter-team scrimmage.
I wonder if Bo Kittredge and Ashlyn Joy and Jordan Marcy and George Stubbs are going to get a chance to play. Stubbs is out there now on D. Rasmussen, Dahlman, Davis, White, Spear, and Cohen out there as well defensively. Now Dahlman marking Coffin. Frood makes the tough tumbling catch, and he'll rip one, looking for Pollock, but Davis with a well-timed poach ensures that Pollock has no play. You just tell Doublewide he's pressing.
Yeah, Pollock has been a huge receiver for Doublewide this weekend. Huge, literally and metaphorically. I feel like the performances of some of their top players on Doublewide just not living up to expectations, and then the fact that they can't hit their 6'7" receiver, things have to feel tough and tense on the Doublewide sideline.
Here's Revolver's 7th great chance already. They're 4 for their first 6. Cohen rips one, read perfectly by Stubbs. Great catch with the left hand. Back to White, back to Stubbs, not in yet. Back to White, now he's good. They called it travel. We'll see if this stands.
Travel call is upheld by the observer.
On 40 upholds the call, so Revolver still has work to do.
Possession with Nate White. Ethan Pollock on the mark.
Rasmussen hits Stubbs for the score.
Big point for George Stubbs.
And the Revolver score.
He made that fantastic grab on the long throw. Here it is. Greg Cohen, known for such great defensive plays, but also a fantastic thrower. George Stubbs, that's a very tricky catch. Running backwards, manages to grab it with one hand and then sets himself up in the end zone to punctuate that nice possession from Revolver.
They're now 5 for 7 on break chances, and you can hear the Revolver sideline saying it's not enough. That's true. They've got it a third of the way there. 5 years ago, Doublewide went up 5-3. Obviously a very different story. Second assist for Rasmussen. The first one, the spectacular deep shot to Byron Liu. Obviously, when this Revolver team was put together, so much talent from last year. Then they added Nick Stewart, Eli Friedman, Tom Doy. Guys who aren't as well known like Antoine Davis and Sawyer Thompson, but who have lived up to the Revolver reputation in their rookie seasons.
Eli Cairns on the ball for Revolver.
Doublewide finally putting basically their D-line out on the field, led by Loscorn, Malachek, and Bennett. Kaplan, Maurer, Dan Emmons, Andrew Walsh, and Michael Mathis. Emmons going long against Cohen. They look him off. Revolver Revolver's opponents throughout this tournament have talked about how good their marks have been. Something you can see on this point in particular, just making things difficult, making breaks a real challenge. Super active marks. This is Maurer to Loscorn. Maurer runs it down. Coaches say Maurer's brought fire to this team. That's what he's always brought. Tough throw, too hard from Bennett. Looking for Mathis.
Mathis punches the ground in frustration, but that would have been a really tricky grab. Look at how fast that disc was coming in.
The type of throw Revolver forces you to make, and Doublewide has not made the super difficult plays.
Yeah, so true.
Here's Kearns. Flicking it long, it was tipped. And Dan Emmons will get credit for the D. That's Revolver's third turnover. Of course, we still haven't seen San Francisco's O-line.
Nice put from Eli Kearns, but Dan Emmons was hot in pursuit and in better position to cut off the distance, intercept it, and knock it too far away for Cohen.
Dan Emmons injured during 2012. There was some question whether he might get back for the series. He kind of said to the captains, look, I don't want someone who's on the fringe of the roster to think that maybe I'll take their spot. So he stepped aside. And then they won the title, and he was like, maybe I should have had my name on the roster and gotten a medal. Oscorn sneaks it through to Bennett. Walsh to Malachek. Looked off Emmons. It's the first point of the game that Doublewide's gotten the disc down to the red zone. Their second trip of the point.
Yeah, they got ahead of Revolver's defense early, managed to get several uncontested shots down, but now Revolver has caught up and sucked in. And we see those active marks again, making looks downfield very tricky and even making the reset tricky, which means that the handler have to look to start that reset option a little bit early, taking away possible time that they can use to advance the disc further downfield.
Are you going for a ruling? Are you going for a ruling? Does it really? Okay. All right, so no call? No call. No call.
Really is a level team defense downfield from Revolver. Bennett got that inside flip break. A lot of times that next throw is an easy goal to the break side. The defense is on the open side, but Revolver was ready for it. Doublewide finally gets on the board. Dan Evans with the bookends. A long road ahead for Austin to try to get back into this title game.
Not a moment too soon. Nice patience from Doublewide. Good find from Matt Bennett. Let him cut up towards the end zone line. Immediately look down and see Dan Evans open for a quick straight down the line shot.
(5-1). Revolver leads, the offense takes the field. You wonder how loose and ready the offense will feel right now. Almost like a starting pitcher who watches his team's offense score 12 runs in the top of the third. Is he ready to come up with the same vigor in the bottom of the third?
I'm sure they're fired up and excited, but from a physical standpoint, they've been walking the sideline, not throwing for quite some time.
You see Schlockett, Doy, Grant Lindsley, Ashland Joy, Simon Higgins, George Stubbs, Jordan Marcy. Still no Bo Kittredge on the field. One one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, now 35 years old, still one of the team's leaders in goals and assists.
On the pole for Doublewide.
Who would have thought that he'd be 7 points into the title game and we would not yet see Bo. Tried to go over and talk to Bo before the game. He said, no, I'll talk to you in a couple hours. Not giving you anything right now. I understand he's focused, he's dialed in. This is Old Hatford championship games at the national and world level. For a lot of these Revolver veterans, I mean, you've woken up at nationals 8 times in 9 years and played the final. Starting in 09, a loss to Chain Lightning, and they got their first win in 2010, repeated in 2011. They were looking for the three-peat in 2012, and they were shocked by a team they had beaten 15-3 earlier in the tournament. Bounced back in 2013. 2014 was the shocking loss in the quarters to Mark Lloyd, Derek Alexander, Jeff Lindquist, and Toronto Goat. Got the win in 2015. Kurt Gibson and Ironside finally broke through last year. Jeff Graham, Jared Inselman, huge in that game too. Every odd year since 2011, though, has belonged to Revolver.
No contest, 78-1. Grant Lindsley with possession for Revolver.
Lindsley to Schlacken. A familiar sight for Revolver fans. Schlacken in the end zone in championship games.
Joel Schlacken standing front and center at the top of the end zone, ready to reel that in for San Francisco.
The first turnover-free point of the game. Revolver's first O point. And just patient, calm, collected offense. Probably the most daring pass was Lindsley zipping this into that small space out of the reach of Andrew Walsh.
Watch that cut from Schlacken. Very intelligent. Starts to move up the field. Notices that Walsh pushes really hard to take away that strike cut. So Schlacken simply stops and becomes that target for the forehand inside out.
Sam Tanner on the ball
Not
for
the
Revolver.
easiest of throws, but Grant Lindsley does it with ease.
There's a pick downfield. Frood and Canner collided. Marshall, marked by Stewart. Here's Smith with Cox counting. Great adjustment. And Doublewide finally takes care of business on offense. Jay Frood with the score. That was a long time coming.
Certainly, and it wasn't the prettiest. Look at that throw. That is definitely saved by Polly. And a bit of a mad scramble, but Muffin finds Frood. Smith immediately regrets that throw, but Pollock does save it. Muffin and Frood quick to react.
Brandon Malachek played 3 college championship games with Wisconsin. He went 2-1. He said this is his 11th title game overall if you include Masters and Beach. He's had a lengthy career as a top handler, both offensively and defensively. Played for Madison Club, Sub-Zero, and Ironside after his days with the Hodags. 33 years old. Said to him before the game, you don't have any plans to stop playing Ultimate anytime soon. He's like, well, I've qualified for 2 World Championships next year, Masters and regular Worlds in Cincinnati, so when you stop playing? Lindsley. Lindsley and Stubbs, among other USA World Game participants, looking for another gold. That disc kept alive by Lindsley. Spectacular catch, and he'll connect with Justin Lim for the score. 7-2 San Francisco, as Lindsley delivers the bailout grab this time.
That throw from Sanchez, released with just a little too much lift on the lip of the disc. Lindsley reads it well. Turns and looks in the end zone and notices that Doublewide has sort of ceased to play defense on one of his teammates.
Grant Lindsley took on leadership responsibilities this year, and an interesting dynamic for a guy that he's in his 2nd year with a team. He's a great player, but a team that has so many veteran leaders. And Lindsley, still kind of a Bay Area outsider. Again, he's in his 2nd year. But he said it was an adjustment for him early in the season to assume a more vocal role at practice.
There's so many things about the Revolver program that I find fascinating. Why are they so consistently good? Mike Payne says that they focus a lot on developing young talent. So it's no surprise that they take a young star like Lindsley and try and help him rise to the task, rise to the challenge. It's really a very safe space for players to start to find their voice, develop their talent, because they know they have such a supportive group around them, helping them succeed. So there's a lot of faith, a lot of trust in one another, and that's why they aim to take younger players and make them leaders, and you know, the whole program is designed to help them succeed.
Doublewide again working it against this Revolver zone. Again, the wind is a steady presence, but it's nothing that is overwhelming for these elite players. Not nearly at peak ferocity for the tournament.
Violation, yeah, we'll go back to what happened, right? And hey, you have to.
Jack, to your right! Now left, Jack!
Alachek signaling that he got a new stall count, and then he fires a cross-field hammer. Ambitious, and it was almost caught, but it did hit the ground. Doublewide turns it over. Revolver looking to attack again. Kearns undercut by Coffin, but he pops right back up. Up the line, Nathan White cannot get there.
This goes back to Doublewide on the Revolver turn.
Revolver's 4th turnover of the game.
Nathan White with some fancy cutting to get separation, get open, but not enough lift on that toss for him to run up under it.
Alachek pointed deep and then launched. Marshall in pursuit. Greg Cohen up to the task.
Greg Cohen
Mike
with the
Cohen
lead
is
for
just
Revolver.
such an outstanding defender.
Then going back to pick up.
Big game guy, too.
Look at that. He reads both the disc and Marshall to try and figure out where best to position himself, all while running at full tilt.
Stewart in pursuit. Another pretty shot, and Revolver takes half, 8-2.
Nick Stewart momentarily floats to make that grab, keep his feet in the air, and drop down right inside the end zone.
Nick Stewart chases it down for the Revolver score.
One of the newest toys Revolver has to play with, Nick Stewart.
Well said.
San Francisco Revolver 8.
Not a bad throw.
Austin Doublewide 2.
I believe it was Friedman who flicked it the full field. Revolver 6 of 10 on break chances in the first half. The San Francisco O-line was perfect in just 2 opportunities. And at the break, the #1 seed looking very much like the favorite. Doublewide with a tough regrouping session ahead. There have been some crazy comebacks
I know we got a little break
in
here,
club
folks,
championship
but
games. There was
please
a
stick around. We're
Ryan
gonna do
Fury
the Team
Classic
Spirit Award
where
in
Fury
just a
had the
minute or
outrageous
so.
comeback.
We've got 2 or 3 here. We just gotta find
So
another
anything's
one.
possible.
Anything is possible, but I remember that comeback vividly, and it takes a stellar performance from one side and a bit of a breakdown on the other.
We're joined by Doublewide coach Jose Cespedes. Jose, your thoughts on how your team is handling the adversity you've experienced through the first half?
We're trying to stay up. It's definitely tough, but I think we have another half to play ahead of us.
What was the message to the guys strategically as you struggled to get rhythm offensively?
You know, we needed to keep the spacing open. Revolver's doing a good job of clogging those lanes and then having us out of position. Sort of just back to the basics, hit the open man, and try to get a score that way.
You guys have come back in stellar fashion in second halves before. What happens during the halftime, either strategically or emotionally, that helps Doublewide change performances in the second half?
Just got to reset the mind. This first half is over, and now we just got to get the D on there and start generating the breaks.
Jose, I know it's hard, but if I can ask you just to step back for a moment. Thank you very much. What has this weekend been like for Austin Doublewide, coming in as a double-digit seed and playing together to arrive in the final?
It's been awesome. Been able to bond, been able to make some
Ladies and gentlemen,
connections.
please turn your
The
attention
brotherhood
to
is
the
strong.
USA Ultimate banner in the
and just
northwest
excited
corner
to
of
be
the
here.
field
We appreciate you
for the
joining us. We wish you the
presentation
best
of
of
this
luck in the
year's
second
Team
half.
Spirit
Thank you, guys.
Awards.
Jose Cespedes in his first year
Following every
coaching
game,
Austin
each team is
Doublewide.
asked to rate their
We're hoping
opponent's
they can make
respect
this one
for
interesting
and
in the second
understanding
half,
of
but they've got
spirit of the
tons
game
of work to
across
do.
five
Revolver
categories.
brilliantly done in the opening half. 8-2,
scores are
San
average.
Francisco leads.
Give them all one more big round of applause. Congratulations to Johnny Bravo.
After
Metro
spending the
North
national
and
championship
Madison
experience
Heights.
in Rockford last year,
Thanks
that
to all
meant
of you
palm
for
trees in
demonstrating
Illinois.
what
We're here in
sportsmanship
Florida.
is
It's a
all
very
about.
pleasant tropical
Even here at
venue.
the highest level
And
of
San Francisco
competition.
Revolvers enjoyed the first half experience. Certainly much more than 2012 when they trailed 8-5 to Doublewide in the half. Defense, the story of Revolver's first half. Defense and conversions.
Absolutely, they have been all Revolver all the time. They're D'ing it better, seeing it better, throwing it better, and just playing better.
How about this puck from Cassidy Rasmussen? One of a few gorgeous full field shots we saw from Revolver's D-line in that first half.
Yeah, gorgeous is a great way to describe both the way that they've been conducting themselves on O and on D. Here's one of 2 fantastic D Nathan White had while in the Revolver zone.
That made it 3-0, and the string of breaks at the outset was not over.
And when they found themselves on an offensive possession, they were just timing everything so nicely so that players like Friedman had tons of space to make the play. Revolver's defense was forcing Doublewide in some really tight spots. That's one of the 2 positive scores we've seen for Doublewide at this point, but like I said, most plays, even when they didn't come out perfectly, like Sanchez's throw to Lindsley. Still ended well for Revolver.
Justin Lim's goal made it 7-2, and then Eli Friedman sending Nick Stewart to take it to the half. Nick with a great leap into the end zone. 8-2 Revolver. They're in control. Head coach Mike Payne joins us. Mike, you told me on Thursday morning that this team looked more dialed in on Thursday than you have ever seen. What has gone in to that laser focus? Who have been the primary fountains of energy that you've leaned upon throughout the weekend?
I think everybody contributes, but I would definitely say that it starts with one of our captains, Lucas Dahlman. He brings an energy in the huddle, an intensity on the field, and inspirational words for us all over that really provides leadership for us. And I would also give a shout out in that to Nick Stewart, who brings a level of intensity and focus to the field that you saw in that first half. He's been a great addition to the team. He's an all-around great player, World Games team member, but he's done what you do on Revolver, which is step onto the team and play a fairly narrow role, but play it to the best of your ability.
Your offensive line is finding themselves getting a lot of rest. How are they staying primed, ready to pop in during these longer breaks?
That's a nice thing about playing here in Sarasota is it's nice and warm. It's pretty easy to stay loose. Those guys have been doing a little bit of exercising on the sidelines, but for the most part, they're drawing their energy that they're going to need from just watching their colleagues on the field. We've also been mixing in a few of those O players on D, so they're getting their reps. We're starting off on O in the second half, and I'm pretty optimistic that they're going to be ready.
Is there anything you're concerned about heading into the second half?
I'm concerned about us playing kind of in a protective way. There's a somewhat famous quote on our team from a member of DOG from back in the day that champions attack, they never protect. And so I think my only fear is that we go out there and play protection ultimate instead of continuing to attack.
All right, Mike, we always appreciate the time. Best of luck out there. 7 points away.
Thanks, y'all. Talk soon.
Mike Payne, head coach of Revolver. They were not perfect in the first half like they were last year, but just 4 turnovers, 6 of 10 on break chances, and they received the disc when we return. One of those first halves for Doublewide, if it was a video game, they'd hit the reset button and start over. They fell behind 5-0, only got 2 goals on the board. Revolver with 8 different goal scorers. One more quick timeout, then the second half, minutes away from Sarasota. About to start the second half, 8-2 Revolver. Russell Wynn had the assist to end the half with a deep flick puck to Nick Stewart. I mistakenly said it was Eli Friedman. Sometimes the mustaches make everybody look alike from afar. But Russell Wynn certainly has a cannon, and he doesn't hesitate to use it. He had the assist for a big break, finding Zach Travis yesterday in the semifinal against Ring. And here's Revolver on offense with Lindsley, Doy, Higgins, Dahlman, Lim, Joy, and Schlockett. We still have not seen Bo Kittredge on the field in this final. Wonder if Bo still has his cleats on.
Hit ball.
Dahlman. A pick was called before the throw.
Go with 6.
Coming in on 6, Dahlman with possession for Revolver. Steppenmore on the mark.
Ashman Joy with a low throw, he turns it over.
Revolver turnover.
Ashman Joy was a spectator from afar last year during the title game. He watched it back home on the West Coast. So when the game ended, he just went to sleep. He was really frustrated and angry, as you would expect. Matt Bennett fires deep. That will not work because it was dropped in the end zone. Holy cow.
Doublewide unable to connect on the deep block. Just over to
Matt
Revolver
Bennett
on the
doing what he
turnover.
can to try and keep the points
Yeah,
coming.
Revolver picks up.
A tough catch for sure. but Ward was there and put forth the effort, but could not close out.
Sam Ward, the double-wide rookie from the University of Oklahoma, played with hip last year. That's just a killer drop. You're not going to come back against these champions without taking care of plays like that.
Sam Ward around the mark for
To state the obvious. Again, how hard is it to play defense after a sequence like that when you feel like you've had the goal?
Sometimes I think it's actually easier because you've got a lot of anger that you can then
What
focus.
about your teammates? I mean, maybe if you drop it, but the other 6 guys in the team had to feel, oh, we got this. What? We don't have it?
Yeah, that honestly is a little bit tougher. Mentally, you let your guard down for a split second because you do think the point is over, and suddenly you go from being able to rest and walk off the field to having to fight this fantastic Revolver offense. But clearly, number 12, Andrew Walsh, is up to the task.
Matt Bennett coming over to pick up.
Another opportunity for Doublewide. Another giveaway.
Doublewide turnover. Ashlyn Joy picks up for Revolver.
You just shake your head at some of these unforced errors.
Yeah, things are just not clicking for Doublewide.
Higgins, and it's blocked away, intended for Schlock, and he thought he had it. Kaplan Maurer came in for the steal. Let's take a look. This is very close. From that angle, it looks like Joel has a case.
Yeah.
Foul call is upheld by the observer.
And Revolver will keep the
Possession
disc.
will stay
Foul
with
upheld.
Revolver. Joel Slacker with the disc. Ward on the mark.
Doy breaks the mark, finds Higgins.
The
mastermind behind these yellow jerseys has a goal in the final.
San Francisco 9, Austin 2.
Uncharacteristic multi-turnover point from the Revolver offense. And yet that's the thing, perhaps as much as they've dominated with their skill and precision, their defensive intensity after a turn to get the disc back. Doublewide had a couple unforced turnovers, that variety after the Revolver giveaways this time, but the point stands. It's been the story of the weekend for Revolver's O-line.
Yeah, very fair. Doublewide giving too many mistakes that Revolver's happy to capitalize. But we've also seen Revolver clearly mentally dialed in because they're still fighting to take the disc away from Doublewide. And that was some nice touch from Tom Doy, who had to come off the field a couple of times yesterday in the semifinal against Ring. So glad to see Tom Doy feeling good today, back on the field and able to make an impact for Revolver on his rookie year, even though he is a veteran player himself.
Eli Kearns on the pole for Revolver.
Since the turn of the century, the biggest blowout in a men's championship game at Nationals was 2 years ago when Revolver beat Sockeye 15-9. There hasn't been a game like this in the finals, 9-2. Rude unable to make the layout, grab again.
Rasmussen picks up for Revolver.
Rasmussen looking for Kearns. He's inbounds for the goal. Pinpoint precision again.
Revolver score.
From the flip of Cassidy Rasmussen. The 7th Revolver break of the morning.
The second time right off a turnover, Cassidy has picked up and just delivered an absolute beauty. some great awareness from Eli Friedman, making sure that the one leg that was still inbound came down first. Look at this. He's straddling the sideline. Make sure it's that left foot that comes down first. He is a hyper-aware athlete. That's fantastic.
And next level stuff from Eli Kearns. Played mixed with the Polar Bears. Really talented guy at the college level. UC Davis. I remember chatting with his college coach a couple years ago, and he thought Eli Kearns had more potential, more talent than Ashland Joy, who also went to UC Davis. Nathan White, also a Davis product. Good eclectic mix of colleges that these Revolver players have went to. Simon Higgins played at Las Positas, LPC. Fair share of Stanford and Cal Berkeley products who have contributed to Revolver through the years. Of course, now the Carleton core. Sam Canner's been around for a long time. Nick Stewart, Justin Lynn, Grant Lindsley. More recent additions, Pat Nalis, also a Carleton alum. Sawyer Thompson coming to the West Coast after playing for Brown. There was a stoppage before that routine flip into the end zone.
He had a foul called.
So we have essentially a foul call on the throw. We have a foul call, no contest. Did it affect play?
He called no. Only one continuation pass. Yeah. It's gonna be here. Stays there. Stays there. It's gonna be here.
Oh, you want to overrule something?
I mean, there's a foul called through, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to overrule us against your team and call it a goal.
Actually, it was before the so seriously.
Before the throw.
There was a stoppage, so it's one throw. If you want, because there's a
guys, we're restarting from here. There was a stoppage because you guys we're restarting from here. You can test it.
So the question is whether you think it affected play. Did it affect your play?
It was not in the throwing motion, correct?
Did not affect your play. Goes here. Okay. We're stalling one.
Hey, stay in here. It's an on-run.
We're stalling one.
Looks like the just
Not the best
to
look.
Dalton Smith. He'll go to the end zone for Rory Orla. That's a double
And
wide
after
score
all
on the
that,
double
they're going
pick.
to give Doublewide the score. It's 10-3.
San Francisco 10, Austin 3.
And something for all of us to learn from. As a player, are you cognizant that you want the game to move along? So take me into your mindset as a player at this national level.
Yeah, personally, I always like the game to continue. I remember in 2012, I was involved in a call, and I contested and tapped the disc back in to continue play, and she asked me, do you want to talk about it? And I said no. And I'm pretty sure that she took offense to that, if I could speculate based on reading her body language, but I was pretty sure I knew what happened, and I didn't think that discussion would help change my mind or convince me otherwise. And honestly, I didn't mean it to be unspirited. I like that about Ultimate. A call is made, you either contest or don't contest, and then move on from there.
You know, if the sport goes where we want it to go, and there are 15,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs, those conversations become even more difficult, and you can't rely on that on-field communication in the same way. Just a thought. it's interesting that part of what we all love about the sport is also a challenge. For the first time in the game, Bo Kittredge has taken the field with his team ahead 10-3 in the second half. Out there with Stubbs, Joy, Marcy, Lindsley, Lim, and Sanchez. So Bo did keep his cleats on after all. First throw to him was over his head, and it's a turnover. Emmons intercepts.
Get in for that takeaway for Doublewide.
Doublewide breaks Revolver for the first time in the men's final. Second goal for Emmons.
While Doublewide as a whole is struggling, Dan Emmons and Matt Bennett are really fighting their hardest. Dan Emmons looking alive here defensively to make sure that Lim can't make the play. And then watch him sprint down the field after he gets that D started. Ends up being the perfect receiver for Bennett, who so far this game has shown that he has his eyes on the end zone. He is ready to put Doublewide on the board as quickly as possible if you're ready for it.
Dan Emmons was a college basketball player at the University of North Texas. Suited up for the mean green, then found ultimate. And really became a passionate defender. Meanwhile, Matt Bennett, certainly well known as one of the top throwers of the scuba in the sport. A throw that he has harnessed to make his trademark. His brother Mitchell also on the team. Mitchell played at University of Texas. Matt played at Texas A&M. Just to add to the sibling rivalry a little bit. Well, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Doublewide has one break. Pole lands in, Schlockett to Joy. Higgins, Stubbs, Lindsley, and Dahlman downfield. Looking for Lindsley, accelerating away from Mathis for the score.
That was all
Stubbs introduced to the end zone for Grant Lindsley in the Revolver score. That's San Francisco 11, Austin 4.
Watch as Stubbs cuts hard in a tight space to get himself open. Finds himself with that backhand shot to a streaking Lindsley. Why not?
Like
Why wouldn't you?
It's like he hit the turbo button. Started with maybe a couple steps, and then Mathis realized that it was Lindsley's disc or no one's. Grant Lindsley, what a journey this guy has had. After a few of his close friends passed away in a tragic car accident at Carlton a few years ago, he really believed he had to do something different. He took off to Thailand, spent a long time living in the wilderness by himself in a Buddhist monastery, where he would meditate for hours at a time. He would have limited contact with other humans for long periods of time, basically getting in touch with the world and nature. And it obviously is an experience that has helped shape his life. You put that in the context of the type of player he is now, to not just return to the type of athleticism that he had before, but to expand on that, find a new level and become arguably the top initiation cutter in the world. Marshall, the contested catch. There's Mitchell Bennett. Matt Bennett scoobers crossfield. The wind takes it, but it's hauled in by Cunningham. And there's Kai Marshall for the sliding score.
Doublewide showing some life left in him yet. That was some nice, smooth offensive movement from them. Really the whole point. I liked the pressure from Revolver, but once they got it through that Revolver cup, there really was no stopping them. Bennett again showing he's ready to fire some hot shots. And and his teammates starting to wake up and react really well. Kai Marshall broke his nose earlier this season in the professional circuit, got kicked in the face as he was laying out, had to have surgery to put bones put back into place, got the okay to play just 5 or 6 weeks after surgery, which happens to be Nationals time. Really, no better time to get that clearance.
Cunningham picks up the assist after he hauled in Bennett's crossfield scuba. 11-5 Revolver.
And Bennett on that call for Doublewide.
Schlockett, Joy, and Lim. Higgins, Lindsley, Stubbs, and Doy. Revolver has a larger O-line this year, by the way, than they had in the past. Not from a height standpoint, although that might be true too. But past year they went with 8 or 9 guys. Now they've shuffled in 10, 11, 12 as they've figured things out over the course of the season. How about the handler defense from Andrew Walsh, leaving his fingerprints on this final. He had the spectacular soaring sky to take half 5 years ago. One of the great momentum plays of that game. That Doublewide went on to win 15-11. Bennett looking for Frood up the line. Great defense by Revolver.
An injury on the play.
The poach from the stack, stealing this disc away from Frood. Ashlyn Joy.
That was a great read from Ashlyn. Look at him come in from the back to snatch that disc away. Shaken up on the catch.
Ashlyn Joy with that D for Revolver.
Rasmussen's going to replace Joy.
Cassidy Rasmussen on the
Former
field.
roommates in the Bay Area. See Revolver trainer Malika Anderson, a valuable member of this program as well for many years. Pressure near the goal line. Rasmussen turns it over. Just the second multi-turnover point of the game for Revolver. The first one, they got the disc back and scored to make it 9-2. Here they'll get the disc back again as well. How about Rasmussen getting the disc back?
That's pretty sweet.
Stubbs thought about it, now takes it. Rasmussen won't get there.
Revolver turn on the deep one.
Rasmussen was wide open. Stubbs delivered
Jeff
just
Lawthorne going back to pick up for Doublewide.
a little too hot of a toss for Rasmussen to catch that one.
In that case, maybe one more pivot.
Yeah, he had the time, and Rasmussen had the steps.
That's hard to watch. Ben Lewis coming on the under.
On the Doublewide turn.
Maybe a little too casual, maybe a little lack of focus.
Brent Lindsley coming over to pick up.
Not good enough. Lindsley to Schlockett. Revolver converts at long last.
Brent Lindsley to the end zone for Joel Schlockett, and the Revolver score. That's San Francisco 12. Aston 5.
Joel Schlockett in his 10th year with the team. A guy that all of his teammates say absolutely personifies their team spirit of intensity, humility, and discipline.
That's all I got today.
Mike Payne has long felt that Joel has been one of the most underrated players in the world. I think Joel's starting to get more and more recognition the past couple of years with his performance in London with Team USA. Just incredible instincts, awareness, skills, speed. He's the whole package except for the flash. He's not flashy, but I think one of his teammates is fine with it.
Yeah, he's no longer Revolver's best kept secret.
That's for sure.
We now know what he can do.
Except if he's just a reset handler, and you have George Stubbs and Grant Lindsley and Bo Kittredge and Simon Higgins downfield, he still can get lost in the shuffle.
Turns on the ball for Revolver.
Mike Spear just down there fast on Malachek. Malachek with a stall count rising, uncorks a monstrous flick. And Cohen ensures that there will be no play. Marshall was the deep threat for Dallas and Austin.
Greg Cohen with the knee for Revolver.
Desperation put that almost looks like it's going to make it. It doesn't sail back in early enough.
Michael Spear from the distance.
Michael Spear will initiate. Pat Bayless, Zach Travis, Antoine Davis.
Travel call.
Byron Lou, Eli Kearns. Along with Cohen. Coffin with a mark. Spear launches. Gives Cohen a chance. And Cunningham and Marshall tag team for the D.
Going back to makeup.
Spear had Cohen with a couple steps, but just did not get enough on the throw.
I think Cohen hedged his bets by stepping away, thinking that it would be misread by Dallas, but not so.
That's the 10th unforced turnover of the game. Doublewide has turned it 19 times, and 10 of them have been gifts. Overly charitable effort from Doublewide.
Yeah, this is going to be a performance that will be hard to forget anytime soon for the players on Dallas. It's fair to say they exceeded expectations. Excuse me, Austin. It's fair to say they exceeded expectations. And for that reason,
with excellent defense, forcing a turnover to get the disc back. Pendulum swings back to Doublewide on offense. Coming up later today, the mixed final, Mixtape and AMP. A couple programs going for their first national championships. If not the case in the women's final, scheduled for 3 o'clock. Boot Squad going for its 3rd straight. San Francisco Fury trying to win number 10. It would be their first since 2012. There's Pollock. Tower out of Cornell. And Mitchell Bennett falls in to score from Cunningham.
And the Doublewide score at San Francisco 12, Austin 6.
Nice D from Austin on that possession, and then taking care of business as they marched it down the field despite some good pressure from Revolver.
That makes it 12-6. About 9 minutes away from the soft cap going off. It probably won't be a factor. Revolver 3 scores away from a 5th championship. Mitchell Bennett's first goal. Cunningham picks up another assist. Obviously, one of the biggest surprises, Megan, in the men's division this week here in Florida was the demise of Seattle Sockeye. They entered as the 2 seed. They beat Revolver at the US Open. They were thought to be Revolver's biggest threat. They ran into the intensity of Florida United. And then a back and forth game against New York Pony, won by Pony on Universe. And then an elimination game against Chicago Machine, and the guys from the Windy City got the job done, and just like that, a stunned Sockeye was sent off to the Pro Flight qualification bracket, where they won a couple games, I believe, and then lost to Johnny Bravo, and Sockeye won't be in the Pro Flight next year. Jordan Marcy in the end zone for the score. Not the prototypical deep threat on the Revolver roster, but Marcy ended yesterday's semifinal with a Callahan hauls in this huck from Lindsley.
Marcy is honestly one of my favorite players to watch on Revolver. I feel like his performance is so understated and is simply setting down the disc after catching a goal. So symbolic of his personality. Very talented, just delighted to play.
Look on his face after he caught the Callahan last night.
Yeah, that was pretty
priceless.
great. That was pretty great.
Grant Lindsley, who had a very quiet first couple days of the tournament, he was ill. He only played about 4 points in the first 4 games. It just doesn't seem fair. You know, a team like Revolver keeps on winning, and they don't have Grant Lindsley for the first couple days of the tournament. Bo Kittredge has barely played here in the final, and they're up by a very comfortable margin. Marked by Wynn. Coffin. Friedman counting. Coffin launches. Cunningham in pursuit. Just shy of the goal line. Cunningham makes the catch. And he slithers it through to Frood for the score.
That was a cheeky put, but perfectly done.
13. Austin 7.
Did I see that wrong? Was he not in?
They ruled that he still had a foot on the ground when he caught it.
Yep.
That's the 3rd turnover-free hold from the Austin O-line here in the second half. Stephen Darrow, kind of the defensive coordinator of the staff, with a very tall task to try and create some havoc defensively to get turnovers. They need a bunch of them. Revolver was only broken once in the game. That was to make it 10-4 after it had previously been 10-2.
Bennett on the ball for Doublewide.
Joy back out there. Here's Doy. High throw. Lindsley tried to adjust, and somehow it's going to be caught by Stubbs. Lindsley, though, shaken up on the collision with Mathis.
We got an injury call here. You're staying in? You're good? I just foul? Okay, so play a stop.
Might have been a
Bumped by
foul.
Mathis's hip, yeah.
Might have been a foul, might have been uncatchable.
Think everybody's okay out there. This
And
will stay with
regardless, George Stubbs is there to clean up the trash.
Pick called.
Obviously, George Stubbs has been involved in a lot of big games, so many against Revolver, playing with Boston Ironside. Revolver and Ironside meeting in the men's final 2010 and 2011. Of course, last year as well. Simon Higgins makes it 14-7, brings Revolver within one.
San Francisco 14, Boston 7.
So Doublewide picking up the defense a little bit, forcing some tough throws on the part of Revolver. Joy and Lindsley happy to do the work laying out to keep the disc alive. Push themselves all the way to the far side end zone line.
Well, in a game like this, you have to make tough grabs. I mean, that's the reality of Elite Ultimate. Defenders are too quick. Strategies have become much more advanced than they were even 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago. The way they force, the way they hedge. You got to make tough grabs, and Revolver has done it, Doublewide has.
That's a very fair point, and you know, I think that the caliber of player, the level of talent on Doublewide is high. I'm shocked to see some of their players making the mistakes that they have. Granted, I think that some of it is understandable, but they're definitely not performing at the level that they're capable of.
Let's see if Revolver can win it on defense. Jay Frood with his catch of the game thus far. Carter Hollow overthrows Kai Marshall. And now San Francisco has a chance with Bayless, Kearns, Rasmussen, Friedman, Wynn, Cohen, and Stewart. Stewart's taken off. Throw comes underneath to Friedman. Stewart took off again. You can tell he wants it. Now Rasmussen sends it. Nick Stewart for the win. Revolver, a five-time national champion.
And the winning score for Revolver.
And Nick Stewart has won 12 nationals for the first time, so has George Stubbs and several other Revolver rookies. San Francisco, the favorite, and Revolver lived up to the billing in 2017 with one of the great rosters. They put in the work and they delivered magic with a 15-7 win in the final.
Here's the unforced error that gave Revolver the opportunity to close this game out. Revolver prudently working it down the field. We saw Nick Stewart cutting several times for the end zone. His teammates happy to give him the game-winning score.
The work is done.
Stick
for
around,
San
everybody. We're
Francisco
going to do
Revolver
the award
in
ceremony in just a
2017.
few minutes. We're also going to present
Rasmussen
Peter Farraker
to
Award.
Stewart
You'll want to be here
to
for
close
that.
it out.
Congratulations, Revolver. Great run,
Austin
Doublewide. That was a fun
Doublewide
game, guys.
back in the final, but they couldn't recapture the magic. It's Revolver for another odd year. The USA Ultimate National Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar. Find the official disc of USA Ultimate at more than 1,900 U.S. retail locations. Largest margin of victory in a USAU men's final since Dog beat Sockeye 21-10 back in 1995. We played a 15 now, and Revolver wins by 8. One of the superstars, Grant Lindsley, kind enough to join us. Grant, an emotional 2016. You guys got so close. How much did that motivate you guys in this run to 2017's title?
The loss in last year's finals definitely motivated us to train harder in the offseason. And also, in a way, it didn't motivate us because any game is easy to kind of put all the value on the last point, and it was just 1 point. It could have gone another way last year, and it didn't. So I think if anything, it helped us realize that we got to bring the most energy from the beginning of a game, of a half, of a tournament. And I think we showed that consistency, certainly this game and also this tournament.
Real quick, what was this weekend like for you? We understand you were pretty ill the first couple of days, didn't play very much. How are you feeling now, and how did you fight through all that struggle?
Feeling great now. I didn't play too much on Thursday because I had the flu or something like that. But you know, we've got a deep team. We got a lot of guys who can do a lot of things, play a lot of roles, and yeah, you know, you said superstar earlier. I really don't think of anybody on this team as a superstar. Certainly, we've got a lot of skill, but if you watch our practices, if you're at the intensity, if you feel the intensity of our practices, you know that it's a fully team sport, and certainly we try and put in all the hard work and practices leading up to the tournaments.
You guys looked good from the outset of this game. I know Coach Payne advised you guys to approach this game as though you were scrimmaging one another. How did that impact the way you approached this game in particular?
I think tactically, the Wind has played a little bit more of a mental game than a physical one. We probably relied on the huck a little bit too much earlier on. Certainly, I think we did against Wing in the semis. So we were a little bit more on top of the unders and just trying to play possession instead of just chucking it deep.
Grant Lindsley, congratulations. We'll let you go enjoy it. You are a national champion.
Thank you.
Grant Lindsley of San Francisco Revolver is also the author of our Discraft Play of the Game. George Stubbs sent it deep, and you see the acceleration speed from Lindsley. Involved in a bunch of goals in the second half. He had 3 assists and the 1 score after halftime. He also had a couple assists in the first half for San Francisco. The Carleton product with our Discraft Play of the Game, and Mike Payne joins us. Mike, congratulations. Number 5 for this program that Nick Handler, Chris McManus, and Mark Weinberger created. What stands out about this 2017 roster in particular?
I think everybody knows who follows Ultimate that this is a very talented roster. I think what stands out about it is the humility in the face of talent, and that's a really hard thing to do. You have guys like Nick Stewart who come onto the team and just play a role just like Bo did back in 2009. So history repeats itself. The beautiful thing about that final is, you know, Bo didn't have to do much.
He played what, 2 points? He didn't touch the disc?
He played 2 points, that's right. And so we've always had the aspiration that we can turn over the core of Revolver and continue winning, and I think that we showed today that we can do that. So I think we've got strength in this program for a long time to come.
And how do you continue to cultivate that culture of humility, even as new stars walk on the team? And I ask this because obviously Revolver is going to look to develop another strong program next season.
Yeah, I would say that it starts at the top. It starts with the captainship and with the best players and the veteran players. You know, they model this by example. You've got, you know, players like Bo and Ashland and Russell who have been top players for years, and they just play a very narrow role and they don't try and step outside of that. And that's a good example to the guys in the middle tier because those are the stars of tomorrow. I mean, we won in 2013, and that was the start of this crop of stars, Lucas, Cello, Nate, some of those guys, and those guys have gone from, you know, middle players on this team to the stars, and yet they still play a role.
Mike, Revolver's 3rd win in Sarasota. You won twice in Frisco. You get a chance to try to win in your home state, albeit in Southern California next year. It's been a long time since Revolver has won in an even year. It's an easy narrative, but a couple years ago, you broke the news that George Stubbs would be joining the team. Any big plans that you care to unveil for 2018?
No plans for next year at this point that I care to disclose. We'll be doing our usual recruiting and we'll be doing our usual work in the off season. But I think we'll have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder about the even-yeared thing. Now that we've won 3 in a row in the odd years, it's time to show that it's not just a jinx.
Alrighty, well, you get to relax, enjoy, you get to watch San Francisco Fury go for another title later today. We congratulate you on this one. We appreciate you joining us, and go enjoy it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Mike Payne, the longtime coach of San Francisco Revolver, as they take care of business. Turns out the Ring of Fire game in the semis, their closest game in bracket play by a long shot, as they just cruised past Pony, and then a pretty one-sided outing in the final. They jumped out 5-0, led 10-2, and closed it out 15-7. Megan, your final thoughts on Revolver's 5th title?
It just goes to show that the work you put in over the season, trying to battle adversity in terms of not having your entire team together, cultivating this culture of humility and respect, and then allowing individuals to shine, to put forth their true talents. That decision to move, Lucas Dahlman onto O and Nick Stewart over to D. From top to bottom, they built the perfect program.
They weren't perfect in the final, but they were certainly very, very good, and they were good enough on a day that Doublewide struggled. 15-7, Revolver, the national champ. Once again, for Megan Tormey, I'm Evan Lepper saying so long from Sarasota. The top 2 seeds in the mixed division and mixtape are coming up at 12:30. Congratulations to Revolver. They're the national champs again.